First up, let's head down to the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., 4:10 p.m. here on the West Coast for St. John's Duke 5-1 matchup. As Colby mentioned, the region of death, aka the East region, St. John's being a 5 seed, did feel a little disrespectful. Now they're catching 6.5. You can find some 7s out there. Plus 245 on the money line. 141.5 is the total. Obviously, I'm on St. John's. I assume you guys are all on St. John's. Outside of that, has Duke been impressive to you guys?
Their point guard's been out, but I'm saying
Yeah,
I was flying
exactly.
during. By the way, we gotta have a conversation, guys. The your Southwest airline internet.
Oh, it's horrible. Glass.
I mean, I might as well just next time. Like that was about the word that reminded me of watching like you're in the 80s and you're trying to watch a porn, like you don't have the channel, but you would change it for like a half second. Right, you change it for you'd see like just a tit, right? You'd see like just a tit, and then it would
boobs.
Yeah, and then so that was a terrible experience, not only for me, but I think I speak for 4 or 5 other college basketball fans on the flight.
Well, now Colby, did you connected to Southwest and did you go to live TV or did you just try and watch on YouTube?
No, I did live TV first. Then I was like, this isn't working. Let me switch over. They got to fix this thing.
Sean does part-time work as a member of the
I will blindly
Southwest.
So go fuck yourself from Southwest.
Look, I don't know. We actually shout out. There was a fan from NC State on the flight, and he was dying hard to watch the game. And his theory, because I had told him that we had taken a flight from Burbank to Vegas a bunch of times and never had this bad of internet. And he's like, but then again, everyone's probably not trying to stream March Madness, which is fair. But his theory was that we're over the Midwest where they don't have the power.
They don't bother putting satellites towards.
Yeah, exactly. That was his theory. That was his theory.
They don't need satellites.
He said we're fucked.
They got station wagons and
and then he even pulled up the map that you can go to the airplane of the the one that I always watch. Yeah. You see, look at this right now. We're over Kansas. We're fucked. Right. So maybe there's some validity to that too.
I will explain how most internet that isn't Starlink in airplanes is actually cell phone towers pointed up. It's some of the worst engineering we ever accomplished as a nation. But you could be very right about that. Actually, like that might not be a harebrained theory.
All I know is the whole place was pretty angry at the fact they couldn't watch Duke TCU, which we caught the first half, and TCU was kind of taking it to them. But I had heard the second half via Twitter was very poorly refereed and kind of a rig job, right?
Yeah, but Duke always gets a favorable whistle, but also they beat the shit out of TCU. Both things can be true. I'm no Duke fan, but yeah,
but we should have covered though, right?
No.
I hear it. The way I hear it is like we should have covered. Duke should have won.
I mean, TCU lost by 23 points.
But there was like some texts on Jamie Dixon where he didn't even curse. Like, there's a lot of points where you could say. I mean, I have not watched the tape.
I wanted to cover, but
okay.
I mean, you can't say it's a bad beat when you're missing the spread by 12 points.
I will say this: what is incredibly frustrating, though. I don't mind. I actually don't really have a problem with the way that Duke gets officiated outside of Better Boozer. It is a little frustrating that he's already big and strong, and now you're just going to give him every bump. That being said, I don't think it changed the outcome of the game or the spread. But I will say this about Duke: I don't think they've played maybe a full game of good basketball total in this tournament so far, and that's the part that I would highlight. Like they have. In both games, whether it was because what did he call them? They were taking Siena a little too lightly.
Yeah.
I don't know what is going on in the locker room, but clearly they're not 100% focused. And now they're going into a situation where I would imagine St. John's is going to try to quote Dan Campbell, drag them out into the deep water and see if they can swim. And I think so far, I mean, Siena was able to kind of drag Duke out into the deep water a little bit. TCU at times in that first half was able to drag Duke into the deep water. So I kind of think St. John's will be able to drag him into the deep water. What I'm scared about is that this is the public side. 70% of the bets, 70% of the tickets coming in on St. John's. That's why we've seen the number shorten up. So I'm on the popular side here.
Look,
Patino has not been good as a dog, not been good ATS, and you look at Duke's. I think Duke's too. The thing is, Duke's going to force you defensively to put up a bunch of threes, and St. John's doesn't hit a bunch of threes, and that's a huge advantage for Duke. And I see what you're saying of like Duke has not played well in those first two games, but as they, to their own admission, they said they were asleep at the wheel in the first half against Siena. Like, okay, hey guys, we were kind of fucking around those first two games. This is now when we got to lock in. We have to prepare for St. John's. Now, do I think Patino is a much better coach than Shire? Yeah, certainly, but it's hard to ignore the talent differential here that Duke has. And also Duke, you know, they beat Michigan in the same arena. I think they're going to be extremely confident going up against this St. John's team. And most importantly, they play really good 2-point defense, which is what St. John's, how they survive. I just think this could be an ugly offensive performance for St. John's. That's my concern. Like, I think Duke's going to get theirs offensively. I just struggle to figure out, how does St. John's get points?
I mean, I do expect it. The under is appealing, but I think St. John's is built to beat Duke. Now, not that they designed this roster that they were going to play Duke. I'm just saying, like, my bracket had St. John's beating Duke because I just think the strengths of Duke, Boozer, Ngongba, who's not even that healthy, who knows, like, going up against the bigs of St. John's, I think is a terrible matchup for Duke. Ejiofor and Hopkins and Dylan Mitchell and stuff, they have the bigs, and they to me can muck up the game enough. I think they're more physical than Duke's seen in a while. Like, and then you have the coaching advantage. I think Slick Rick's the best coach in college basketball, and what's great is I know he had talked about this the other day, that his assistant had told him to watch some TV show. Just they were talking small talk, and it's like, you should watch this TV show. And on like one of the first like 4 or 5 episodes, this TV show referenced Christian Laettner's shot against Kentucky. Right. And he's like, I fucking threw that show off so quick. And he's like, it still bothers him that he lost that game. He goes, I think about it all the time. Right. I think he still has it out for Duke. I truly believe that. And I think it's a good matchup for St. John's. Yes, St. John's is not a great shooting team, but I think St. John's is a physical team that you don't see in the ACC. I think they're going to be able to really give them problems. I don't know how Duke's going to score in the low, like in the paint. I think Duke's going to really struggle scoring down low. So give me the Johnnies and the points. I think they win it outright.
I think you'd also be, I mean, it is a little surprising how much of a like offensive rebound, big guy game that Duke requires. And to your point, like, look at the starting lineups: freshman, sophomore, freshman. I think maybe one senior on the Duke starting lineup. Meanwhile, what's St. John's? Junior, senior. And all those big guys are grown-ass men. And if you want to talk about a time when there is an advantage between a 24-year-old and a 18-year-old or whatever, it's in this kind of atmosphere. So, yeah, I'm with Colby. Well, Sean brings up some good points. If they're chucking threes, we're probably in trouble. But
no, I mean, I want to take St. John's. I want St. John's to win this game. I don't want Duke to win, but also I gotta be real here. Like, I just think, I just struggle to see how St. John's puts up enough points. Now the total is low, and maybe if this is really an ugly game, the 6.5 ends up being, worth something. Kramer being on the side of a public dog and taking that side is terrifying.
I think we should hit home the point on, like, Duke last year was, I believe, and I recited the stat, I don't have it in front of me. I believe this was a stat that I read earlier in the year, was that on this show, was that teams that make the Elite Eight since COVID have been and on average of 21.8 years old, right? And Duke last year is the lone outlier. Last year's Duke that had a bunch of fucking great NBA players, right? So this would be yet again, I think, one Duke this year. I like fading that trend because I do think college basketball has changed, and that now you've let in the Euros too. So I even think it's going to be even older in a couple of years. So I like that trend for our Johnnies even more, Kramer.
Here you go.
Last thing I'll say is I think also this is Patino. Patino's going to have watched this team. The Duke is missing their, a key component to their ball handling. I think I would fully expect there to be a little extra ball pressure and things to confuse the guards. Because I'll keep saying it. The other Boozer is he makes some great plays, but he definitely leaves some out there on the court. And I think that's another area where St. John's has an advantage and can certainly cause some mayhem. Get some of those quick, easy. To your point, defense is good for Duke. So get some transition buckets, get some steals, run out. So yeah, I mean. Money line. We already know who I'm taking for the dog this week, but I'll also be on the points here.
In the 22 games played in the Sweet 16, Elite 8, and Final Four, beginning with the 2024 Elite 8, favorites are 20-2 straight up, 15-7 ATS. The only two losses in that span: Duke in last year's Final Four to Houston, what a collapse, and Duke in the 2024 Elite 8 to NC State. I will take St. John's, but if Duke covers, I'm going to say I told you so. So
play that Benedict music. Play that Benedict music.
I'm not Benedict. I'm on St. John's. I just I did the research. I have the information. I have to share it with the audience. But yeah, I'll take St. John's plus 6.5 just because fuck Duke.
A lot of belly aching over there by Sean. All right, moving along.
No, I worry I'm going to be watching this game and St. John's isn't going to be able to get a fucking bucket, and I'm going to be screaming at the TV. These motherfuckers talked me into St. John's.
Yeah, but then you have the built-in excuse of just arguing that the Duke got all the calls.